Well, the feds are arresting state court judges now. State court judges like Hannah Dugan, who was arrested just yesterday in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, because the feds claim that she didn't adequately cooperate with them as they were trying to apprehend a Mexican national who they were trying to arrest and deport right after a hearing or during a hearing of hers about him being there on domestic violence charges. She's just trying to do justice. She just wants to make clear that when people come to the Milwaukee courthouse, that they're not going to be deported, because if they don't participate in the court system, then we've got to go pick them up and arrest them and bring them in shackles. You don't want to scare people away from the courthouse now, do you? You don't want to let the word get out among the immigrant community, the undocumented community. Don't go near the courthouse. Go deep underground. This person was there to be processed for domestic violence. Sure, there may be an immigration charge against him, but there is a good reason for the good policy that you don't want to scare the crap out of immigrants who need to come through the civil or criminal court system in Milwaukee and have them scared of being picked up by the feds in the courthouse. How about setting up outside and picking him up after he departed? Then you don't have to get the judge involved wearing her black robe, and you don't have to ultimately charge her with obstruction. I'm going to break down the curious case of Hannah Dugan, and when I'm done with this hot take, you're going to understand that we are in another fascist moment by Donald Trump, who's out of control with an FBI director who doesn't know what he's doing, with a half-wit of a Department of Justice head in Pam Bondi. And it all came to a head with Hannah Dugan. And good on her. She supports the rule of law. She did the right thing. And I'm going to tell you why right here on this hot take on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to build this channel. It's really important. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button. Helps me bring on new content, new contributors, and continue to keep the lights on here on Legal AF. Let's talk about Hannah Dugan. Before she was a judge, she worked for legal aid. And she worked for Catholic charities that help people who were underprivileged and underrepresented in the legal system. She then ran for the judge position, and she won that position. And she's been sitting there for a number of years. Now, there's a very good reason why state court judges in particular don't want their courts and courtrooms to be used as the scene of arrests by the feds, because it will put people deep underground who have other civil matters, and they won't want to come to court. And if they don't come to court, that makes Milwaukee, in this case, less safe and puts a lot of strain on their justice system. So in the papers that I have read, in the criminal complaint, they didn't even get an indictment from a grand jury. They just have a criminal complaint based on an affidavit of an agent. The best they can come up with is, we knew that this particular guy, right, was there in the courthouse. ICE knew that Eduardo Flores Ruiz was going to be appearing for a hearing. Okay, great. Then set up outside, which is where you ultimately apprehended him anyway. Don't embarrass the Milwaukee court system. Don't embarrass the judges. Don't make it the word get out. If you go to the Milwaukee circuit court, you might get picked up by the feds. That's why we don't want them doing that in churches or in schools or at funerals. You know, we have to have certain sacrosanct sanctuary areas. But Milwaukee has a good reason for it. And there's a reason the chief judge is like, I don't want my courthouse to be the scene of this type of arrest. Now, if they knew, I mean, they say, I'll read you for the criminal complaint before we get to the charges against, the literal charges against Dugan. It says in paragraph 9, the Milwaukee ICE, Immigration Custom and Enforcement Office, was aware on April 18th that Flores Ruiz was scheduled to attend a hearing in his criminal case. This is actually a criminal case for domestic violence. The hearing was set to take place in courtroom 615 before Judge Hannah C. Dugan. And they set up there. Well, if they knew he was coming in and they know what he looks like, there's only one way in and one way out of the courthouse. I've practiced in courthouses for 35 years. There's not multiple exits. You know, you already knew he came through the metal detector, so he's unarmed. He's with his lawyer. Pick him up on the courthouse steps. Don't do it in the courtroom and take a crap over the Milwaukee court system. That's the only reason. So what happened is Dugan was informed while she was on the bench that there was 6 different agents, federal agents, outside her courtroom. She told them appropriately. She first said, "What's your warrant?" And they said, we have an administrative warrant. On the food chain of warrants, that's the lowest warrant. It's not a judge wasn't even involved. It's just the agency itself issued the warrant. And she said, come back when you get a court warrant. You know, you're in a courthouse, go get a court warrant. Yeah. So that's one. Two, she said, go talk to the chief judge who runs my courthouse about what his policies are about picking up, because I don't think you're allowed to pick up here, even in the public hallways. So while they were off doing that, she was finishing the hearing. She had like 7 or 8 other hearings in the courtroom. And at one point, when it was over, rather than hand this guy over directly to the feds, who had now violated policy and showed up with a kind of a low-level warrant, she moved the guy apparently through the jury box, not the jury room, the jury box, out the back door of a jury room into another public hallway. That's not where the agents were set up, but that was the other hallway. And these guys ended up being able to walk out the front door. And I think the message that Dugan was setting was, don't show up in my courtroom or my courthouse with a administrative warrant. If you know everything you need to know about apprehending him, then set up outside. But don't scare the crap out of people from participating in our justice system. She's all about the rule of law, but it runs both ways. And so, of course, that pissed off everybody in the Trump administration. Kash Patel immediately issues his social, everything's done by social media posts in this administration. So he issues this social media post, which he took down. Just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. We believe she intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse. Well, really her courtroom. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot, and he's been in custody ever since. But the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. I don't see that. I mean, I think a proper execution of the search warrant would have been a court-ordered search warrant, a judge involved, set up outside and pick the guy up on the courthouse steps. Plenty of opportunity to do that, and you know he's unarmed. But they wanted to set this up. You could tell. It's almost like a setup, like entrapment almost with Dugan. And she's fighting back. She hired a former federal prosecutor to take on the case. And it is going to fight back on it. But I know there's a lot of like MAGA, oh, we're just giving them, you know, here we go, liberal judges liberal judges, just the way federal courts are being resistant against Donald Trump's out of control, lawless policies. Now he's arresting in churches, in funeral homes, in schools, in inside courtrooms, in state court. And this is outrageous. For what reason? Why do we need to trash our values as an American people to pick up one guy, Eduardo Flores Ruiz? Really, we have to sacrifice what we are as an American people? Pick him up outside. Then Judge Dugan doesn't have to put him through the hallway and send him out the other door. And you don't have to worry about the policies of the chief judge. And you don't have to worry about picking up another warrant. I mean, an administrative warrant, by the way, in immigration is so low level that if they knock on the door with an administrative warrant, they're not allowed to go in if somebody refuses their entry. It's not a real warrant in that way. It's not even a knock and enter warrant. It's not a warrant at all. And that's what the judge was telling them. If you're going to do this ridiculous thing, you know, then you're going to do it right. And that's her rule of law. And that comes from years of her serving the underprivileged communities under Catholic Charities. I mean, it's ironic that the week that Pope Francis dies and is buried, somebody that was one of the leaders of Catholic Charities in Milwaukee is getting picked up because they don't like the fact that she didn't allow the arrest to happen directly outside of her courtroom. Well, screw them, you know? And you can tell how weak the case is so far because it's not even an indictment. It's a criminal complaint. And the way criminal process works is the lowest level of a criminal charge is a complaint. Eventually, this is going to have to be converted into a grand jury indictment. Good luck trying to find, we'll see what happens. I may not know my Milwaukee well enough, and I've been there a number of times. I worked for a firm that was based in Milwaukee, but I'm not sure you're going to find 20 jurors, grand jurors, to indict Judge Dugan. She's very well liked and well respected in that town. But it was enough so they could do this big show, right? Shock and awe to scare everybody and to undermine and shake the timbers of judicial independence. That's what they're trying to do. They don't really care if they ultimately get an indictment. They really don't. You know, the job's been done. They got to arrest, even though she's been released without bond, got to arrest a liberal judge, a nonpartisan, but somebody who proclaims to be a Democratic judge. We're going to follow it all, every step of the way. I'll keep you updated on Judge Dugan, whether she gets really indicted or whether she cuts another deal. Now, back in Trump's first administration in 2017, he also arrested a judge for similarly doing this. And that judge cut a deal and they dropped the charges. She referred herself over to the judicial review authorities, and it was left as an ethics issue. But I support Judge Dugan, and you should here as well. You're on Legal AF, support us as well. Hit the subscribe button. It's for free, but it does help us grow this channel. We've added about 75,000 new subscribers this month. Be the 75,000th and you'll get reminders regularly about our content. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.